Hey, this is Sampology. I'm going to break down and isolate all of the different elements that make up my song Memories in Flight, which is the first taste of the mood and atmosphere of my forthcoming album, Regrowth. Every single sound you'll hear in the song is recorded from scratch, either here in my home studio, around Brisbane, or on my travels. And the harp kind of set everything off. I had access to a harp, so I brought over some mics and just improvised with it and took a little loop. The double bass on the track is played by my dad. He's an orchestral player for the Queensland Symphony Orchestra here in Brisbane. The drums, I wanted to be fairly simple because I knew that I wanted enough room to allow for a lot of lush elements. The strings in the song form the main chord progression that's going from start to finish. And we're from a completely different string quartet recording for another track, but I chopped it up, repitched it into a new chord progression. And that's actually my auntie on viola. I then played some Rhodes piano to thicken up the chord progression. I've really been getting into alternating between acoustic bass and synth bass, so I played a Moog Little Fatty in the alternate sections. The rhythmic kind of clavy piano comes from an ace-tone top one organ combined with a wah pedal. The stacked vocal kind of choir thing comes from a real choir. The melody comes from a vibraphone that I borrowed from a friend. I love that you can hear the whirring of the motor in it. And I laid it up with a xylophone as well. The arpeggiating synth comes from Moog Voyager. I borrowed from my cousin. Thanks, Bill. And that little vocal snippet comes from Marinda, who recorded some vocals from a completely different track, but I love that little sample. So I wanted the whole song to build and kind of reflect the in-flight part of Memories in Flight, with the orchestra loop having a filter on it, just open it up and open up, and all of the melodies kind of having their own space. To add some extra thickness to the strings, in the last chorus I added a Dave Smith evolver, which sounds kind of out of place by itself, but in the mix it gives an extra emotional surge to the end of the song. So Memories in Flight is a reflection on discovering all of my granddad's 70s Super 8 footage and digitizing it last year, and finding some snippets of me flying on a green screen that he'd set up in his garage. I had this memory of looking behind me and seeing a green screen and him filming this stuff, but it wasn't until last year I actually discovered that footage. So like a lot of the songs on my forthcoming album, Regrowth, Memories in Flight took quite a while to come together and for all of the different elements to find each other